Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. Yesterday, we commemorated October 7th, and we had a special speaker at our synagogue, Captain Oren Cohn, who is the official photographer of the IDF, who spent this entire year going into Gaza photographing the beautiful soldiers and their courageous, heroic deeds. And he presented our synagogue with the most magnificent gift I could ever imagine to receive, and that is a shofar. But not any ordinary shofar. You see, Captain Cohn just went into Gaza this past week before he came to Palm Beach. And he went in right before Rosh Hashanah, and he said in his vest, as a soldier of the IDF, himself a reservist, he took, of course, his gun, his ammunition, but in the vest pocket of his uniform, he took a shofar for Rosh Hashanah. And wherever he went, he would blow the shofar, and the soldiers would gather around him in Gaza, on the battlefield, to listen to the shofar. Every day of the year as Jews, we have 3 daily prayers: Shachrit, morning; Mincha, afternoon; and Arvit, evening. On special days like Shabbat and holidays and Rosh Chodesh, we have a 4th prayer called Musaf. But there's only one day of the year that we have 5 prayers, and that is on Yom Kippur. In addition to the evening prayer of Kol Nidrei, the morning Shachris, the Musaf, and then the Mincha, we conclude Yom Kippur with the Ne'ilah prayer. Now, what does the word Ne'ilah mean? Ne'ilah means the closing of the gates. And it's always understood to mean that the gates of heaven are about to close, and everyone stands with the ark is open, and it's your last opportunity to get your prayers in before the gates of heaven close at the end of Yom Kippur. But Chassidut gives an entirely different meaning to the prayer of Ne'ilah. And Chassidut says, yes, the gates of heaven are closing, but it's not that you're standing outside the gates and you're locked out, but you enter into the gates of heaven and you stand alone with God. And when God closes the gates, you find yourself intimately face-to-face with God for the coming year. And that's the way we end Yom Kippur, knowing that we are alone in that beloved relationship with our Father in heaven. And that when we come to Shul on Yom Kippur, no matter how many people are in the synagogue, we should know that we are entering into a personal relationship with God. There's a chazan by the name of Tzadok Greenwald from Israel, and every year he flies to Frankfurt, Germany, because he is the chazan in the great synagogue of Frankfurt. 2,000 seats. And he tells the story that one year, after the entire fast of Yom Kippur, everyone left after Ne'ilah to go home to eat. He folded his talis, took off his white kittel, put it away for next year. And then he closed all the lights in the synagogue and went out a side door to go back to his hotel to break his fast. He was hungry, he was tired. But as he went out the side door, he saw an elderly man standing at the gates of the synagogue, which were already locked. And he was standing there looking at the gates. He went up to him, he said, "Sir, can I help you?" He says, "Why are the gates closed? Why isn't the synagogue open for Kol Nidrei?" And the chazan cantor, Tzadok Greenwald, said, "I'm sorry, but Kol Nidrei was last night. We just finished Yom Kippur." And the man began to cry. And he said, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "Because I'm a Holocaust survivor." And he says, "I'm not really connected to observance, but there's one thing I do, and that is every year I go to Kol Nidrei services. Because before my father died, he made me promise that I would never miss Kol Nidrei. He said, if you go to Kol Nidrei every year, that will keep you connected to your Judaism." And he said, "I've never missed a Kol Nidrei in my life. And this is the first time I missed Kol Nidrei. How did I make that mistake?" And the man began to cry. And Tzadok Greenwald looked at him and said, "Don't worry. I'm the cantor of the synagogue. Come with me." And he took him back into the side door of the synagogue, opened up all the lights, put his kittel, his white kittel, and his talis back on. He put on his cantorial hat, gave the man a talis and a prayer book, and took him up to the bima. And he stood there in front of the entire sanctuary, which was completely empty, 2,000 empty seats. Just the cantor and this elderly Jew on the bima. And with all his heart and all his soul, he said, he prayed Kol Nidrei, and it was the most powerful Kol Nidrei of his life, because he wasn't doing it for the congregation. It was just for this one Jew who wanted to pray to God on Yom Kippur. And that's the message of Kol Nidrei. That's the message of Ne'ilah. The gates are closed, but we're in the intimate confines of the holiest space in the world, which is God's holy throne. And we remain there, and every day of the year we remember that we are face to face with Almighty God. This shofar that we were gifted yesterday will be blown at the end of Ne'ilah at the Palm Beach Synagogue. The very shofar that the soldiers of the IDF heard in Gaza. And to me it's a metaphor. You see, the soldiers are on the battlefield fighting the forces of darkness. But everyone in their own life has their own battlefield. We all have our internal struggles and battles that we are confronting. The darkness in our own life, the challenges, the hardships. But the shofar of Gaza tells us that God is with us on the battlefield. We are never alone. Wherever we find ourselves, whether in the sanctuary before the holy open ark, or in a difficult, challenging space amidst rubble and debris and challenges and enemies, internal or external, God hears our cry of the shofar, because God is with every one of us, not just as a congregation, but as individuals. Have a wonderful day.